The first human ship that entered the Crimson Dominion did not return. The second returned empty. The third returned with one survivor, and he refused to speak. By the fourth expedition, humanity understood two things. Something ancient ruled beyond the Perseus Veil, and it did not negotiate. The Dominion, beyond mapped Terran space, past fractured pulsars and ionized nebulae, lay a region known only through intercepted signals and scattered wreckage. The Crimson Dominion. It was not a federation, not a trade alliance, not even an empire in the traditional sense. It was a feeding ground. Entire star systems existed under its shadow. Worlds glowed dimly red from orbit, not because of atmospheric composition, but because orbital constructs siphoned solar radiation into titanic lattice structures suspended above each inhabited planet. The energy harvested did not power cities. It sustained something else, something biological. Human analysts struggled to categorize the Dominion's ruling species. They were not undead in the mythological sense. They were not supernatural. They were evolutionary apex predators. Hematophagic, neuroparasitic, long-lived beyond human comprehension. And at the center of it all sat one name repeated in intercepted transmissions. Queen Seralyth Virex. The capture. Commander Elias Kane did not believe in monsters. He believed in physics, in strategy, in the cold predictability of power structures. So when the Terran Council sent him to test the edge of Dominion space, he treated it like reconnaissance, not legend. The TSS Valiant Horizon crossed the Perseus Veil under stealth drift. Scanners detected gravitational distortions, artificial, energy signatures immense, communication bursts, encrypted and rhythmic. Then space folded. It wasn't hyperspace. It wasn't a wormhole. It was controlled gravitational compression. The Valiant Horizon froze mid-drift as invisible force fields snapped around it like a cage. Every system shut down simultaneously. Not damaged. Silenced. Boarding vessels emerged from darkness, sleek, organic-looking constructs with curved hulls resembling bone rather than alloy. "Commander," his tactical officer whispered, "we're being harvested." Kane almost smiled at the choice of words. Docking clamps latched. The hull parted without explosive force. Matter phased aside like obedient flesh. They came through the breach in silence. Tall, pale, armor grown from their own biology, segmented plates flowing seamlessly from skin. Eyes like liquid crimson glass. They moved with fluid grace, impossibly fast. His crew fired. Plasma bolts struck their bodies and were absorbed, not deflected. Absorbed. The boarding party closed distance in seconds. There were no screams, only sudden stillness. Kane watched two of his officers collapse as slender tendrils extended from the attacker's palms, embedding at the base of the skull. Neural siphoning. Not blood. Memory. Skill. Experience. One of them approached him. Its gaze locked onto his. And for the first time in his life, Commander Elias Kane felt hunted. Darkness took him. The throne world. He awoke beneath a crimson sky. The air was warm, heavy, metallic. He lay on a vast platform suspended above a city that stretched for miles, spires curved like fangs, structures pulsing faintly with bioluminescent veins. Above the city, orbiting lattice constructs shimmered, colossal frameworks channeling stellar energy downward in controlled streams. Energy for sustenance. Energy for longevity. Energy for her. At the center of the platform stood a throne. Not carved. Grown. Black crystalline material curved upward into jagged elegance. Veins of scarlet light pulsed through it in slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. And upon it sat Queen Seralyth Virex. She did not look monstrous. She looked immaculate. Tall and slender, skin pale as polished marble with faint crimson undertones. Her hair fell in waves of dark silver streaked with deep red. Her eyes were not merely red, they were layered, complex, reflecting light like multifaceted gemstones. Her presence altered the air itself. Gravity seemed heavier near her. Time felt slower. She leaned slightly forward as Kane stirred. "So," she said, her voice smooth and resonant, "this is the human commander." He forced himself upright. Restraints of shimmering energy held his wrists and ankles, not painfully, but firmly. "I assume I didn't win," he said hoarsely. A flicker of amusement touched her expression. "You amuse me already." Her court stood in semicircle formation behind her, dozens of her kind, each radiating predatory stillness. "You entered my dominion," she continued calmly. "You probed my borders. You observed my systems. You attacked my ship," he corrected. A faint smile. "You were within harvesting range." He studied her carefully. "Not undead. Not myth. Alien apex. You drain neural energy," he said slowly. "Not blood." She tilted her head slightly. "Blood is inefficient. Memory, cognition, emotional resonance, far more sustaining. So you consume civilizations. We elevate them." There it was. The predator's justification. "Your species is young," she continued. "Aggressive. Adaptive. Your neural architecture is vibrant." Behind her, members of her court shifted subtly. "Interest. You will kneel," she said simply. Not shouted. Not demanded. Stated. It carried the weight of inevitability. Kane looked at the vast city below, at the orbiting energy lattices, at the silent court, then back at her. "No." The word echoed across the platform. Murmurs rippled through the court, subtle, dangerous. Seralyth's eyes narrowed slightly. "You misunderstand," she said. "Kneeling is not humiliation. It is alignment. I do not destroy what I can integrate." Integration sounds like a polite word for slavery. Her gaze sharpened. Slavery implies inefficiency. I preserve what is valuable. And what happens to what isn't? A pause. It ceases. The court grew still. "You will kneel," she repeated. Kane met her gaze steadily. "Make me." Silence. Absolute. For a fraction of a second, something flashed across her face. Not rage. Not yet. Surprise. No one spoke to her that way. No one survived long enough to. The air pressure shifted subtly. The energy restraints tightened. She rose from her throne. Up close, her presence was overwhelming, like standing before a living singularity. "You believe defiance is strength," she said softly. "It is." She stepped closer. "I have ruled for 8,000 of your years. I have watched species rise and crumble. I have fed on minds greater than yours." "Then you should know," Kane replied evenly, "that humans don't respond well to ultimatums." A faint curl touched her lips. "Every species responds." She extended one hand. Slender, elegant, deadly. A filament of crimson energy extended from her palm toward his forehead. Neural siphon. He felt it before contact, a pressure against his thoughts. Memories flickered. Training, childhood, battlefields. She intended to drink him dry. But as the filament touched his skin, pain surged through her. Not him, her. The filament snapped back violently. She recoiled half a step. Gasps rippled through the court. Kane blinked. "What?" she whispered. For the first time since he'd awakened, her composure fractured. She tried again. The filament extended, slower this time. It brushed his temple. And again. A violent feedback pulse surged outward. Seralyth staggered. One of her court rushed forward, but she raised a hand sharply, halting them. Her eyes locked onto Kane's. You are altered. He frowned. I'm human. No, she murmured. There is something else. Deep within Kane's skull, at the base of his brainstem, a Terran experimental implant activated. Project Aegis. A classified neural defense protocol designed to shield high-ranking officers from cognitive intrusion. It had never been tested against something like her. But it was working. Seralyth straightened slowly. The court watched in stunned silence. You resist consumption, she said quietly. Looks like it. Her gaze deepened, no longer predatory alone. Curious. Hungry in a different way. You are not prey, she whispered. The words seemed foreign on her tongue. For the first time in millennia, something in her dominion did not submit. And that was her fatal mistake. Because instead of killing him immediately, instead of ordering his execution and dissecting his biology, she smiled. You will not kneel, she said softly. Good. Then you will stand beside me. The court reacted sharply. Shock. Confusion. She ignored them. You will teach me why your mind resists. Kane's pulse quickened. This wasn't mercy. It was fascination. Predators who become curious about prey often forget caution. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. Her eyes gleamed. I do not make mistakes. Above them, the crimson sky darkened slightly as one of the orbital lattices intensified its energy stream. The Dominion pulsed. Alive. Watching. Unaware that its queen had just encountered the first anomaly in 8,000 years. Unaware that curiosity, not rebellion, would begin its unraveling. Seralyth turned toward her court. Prepare containment, she commanded. The human remains alive. Then she looked back at Kane. And you will learn what it means to stand before a queen. He met her gaze without flinching. I already am. The faintest flicker of something dangerous passed between them. Not hatred. Not yet. Recognition. In that moment, neither fully understood what had begun. But history would remember it as the moment the Crimson Dominion stopped being invincible and started being afraid. The Crimson Dominion had never encountered resistance. Not true resistance. There had been wars, rebellions, species that burned their own cities before surrendering neural harvest rights. But in the end, all minds yielded. Every consciousness had a pattern. Every pattern could be unraveled. Queen Seralyth Virex had unraveled thousands. Until now. The Chamber of Resonance. Commander Elias Kane was not returned to a cell. He was taken somewhere far more intimate. The Chamber of Resonance lay beneath the throne platform, carved into the bedrock of the planet itself. The walls were smooth and dark, threaded with living crimson veins that pulsed in synchronized rhythm. The air vibrated faintly, not audibly, but perceptibly, like standing near a massive engine humming just outside human hearing. At the center of the chamber stood a circular dais of black crystalline material. Kane was placed upon it. The energy restraints dissolved, replaced by a translucent containment field that shimmered around him like heat haze. He rotated his shoulders slightly. They always treat guests this well, he muttered. Seralyth stood across from him, her court forming a silent perimeter. This is not hospitality, she replied evenly. It is inquiry. Her gaze lingered on his face, studying micro-expressions, pulse fluctuations, pupil dilation. You experience fear, she observed. Everyone does. You conceal it efficiently. Occupational hazard. A faint flicker of amusement crossed her eyes. She dismissed the majority of her court with a subtle gesture. Only 3 remained, elder advisors, their skin bearing darker crimson veining that suggested age and status. One stepped forward. "My queen, the anomaly presents risk. Termination would eliminate uncertainty." Seralyth did not look away from Kane. "If termination were optimal," she said softly, "I would have chosen it." The elder inclined his head and retreated. Kane watched the exchange carefully. Internal disagreement. Not open defiance, but caution.
Good.
That meant cracks existed. The probe. Seralyth extended her hand again. This time, the filament of crimson energy did not strike abruptly. It coiled gently in the air between them, humming faintly. "I will not drain you," she said. "I will observe." "You say that like it's comforting." "It should be." The filament approached his forehead. Project Aegis activated instantly. Kane felt it, a subtle cold sensation at the base of his skull, followed by a low-frequency vibration spreading across his cortex. The filament touched. Contact. This time, Seralyth did not recoil. Instead, she flinched sharply, as if brushing a live current. Her pupils dilated. "Fascinating," she whispered. Kane felt pressure in his mind. Not invasive yet, but exploratory. She wasn't forcing entry. She was mapping the perimeter. Project Aegis responded by generating counterharmonics, fluctuating neural noise patterns designed to scramble intrusion attempts. To Seralyth, it must have felt like trying to drink from a storm. "You are shielded," she murmured. "Classified Terran tech," he replied. Her gaze sharpened. "So, your species anticipated us. Let's just say we're not fond of being harvested." She increased pressure slightly. Pain flickered behind Kane's eyes. Manageable, but sharp. Aegis compensated. The chamber's crimson veins pulsed brighter. Her advisor stiffened. "My queen," one warned. Silence. She leaned closer. For a split second, he felt her. Not as a predator. As a consciousness.
Vast.
Layered. Ancient beyond measure. Memories flickered at the edge of his perception. Alien skies, collapsing suns, civilizations bowing in unison. And beneath it all, loneliness. The contact snapped back violently. Seralyth stepped away, breathing harder. She stared at him. "You felt that," she said quietly. "Yeah." Her expression changed. Not anger.
Not dominance.
Something more dangerous.
Intrigue.
"You are not simply shielded," she murmured. "You reflect." Kane's pulse quickened. Reflect? Project Aegis was defensive. It shouldn't project outward. Unless her neural siphon required resonance alignment. And Aegis wasn't just blocking. It was destabilizing her harmonic intake. "You're not used to resistance," he said calmly. "I am not accustomed to interference," she corrected. The court reacts. News spread quickly through the Dominion hierarchy. The human who could not be consumed. The queen who failed to dominate. Whispers echoed through the fanged spires of the capital. In private council chambers, factions began recalculating. Some saw opportunity. If the queen's supremacy faltered, others saw danger. If humans possessed countermeasures, the Dominion's expansion model faced disruption. Within the Chamber of Resonance, tension thickened. "You will remain under my observation," Seralyth said at last. "Meaning, you will move freely within designated sectors." Kane blinked. "House arrest. Considerate proximity." Her advisors stiffened again. "My queen." She silenced them with a glance. "If he is immune to siphoning, he is not prey. If he is not prey, he is variable." She turned back to Kane. "And variables must be studied." He met her gaze. "You're gambling." "I have ruled for 8,000 years," she said softly. "I do not gamble." That was the second time she'd said that. And Kane suspected both times were wrong. The truth of the Dominion. Later, escorted by 2 silent guards, Kane was allowed onto an elevated terrace overlooking the capital city. The view was staggering. Billions of lights pulsed below. Orbital lattices shimmered above like a cage of stars. "You harvest neural energy from entire populations," Kane said quietly. A guard responded, not hostile, but matter-of-fact. "We enter symbiosis." Symbiosis usually benefits both sides. It does. Kane turned to him.
How?
The guard paused. "Our queen extends life, enhances cognition, stabilizes planetary ecosystems. Without Dominion integration, many species would have perished." There it was again. Not conquest. Optimization. Seralyth approached silently from behind. "Your species assumes domination equals cruelty," she said. "Doesn't it? Not if the outcome improves survival metrics." He studied the city. And choice. Choice produces inefficiency. He almost laughed. "That's the most tyrant thing I've ever heard." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You speak of tyranny from a species that conquered its own planet repeatedly." He didn't deny it. "We learned," he said. "Did you?" she asked softly. Earth responds. Light years away, the Terran Council received fragmented telemetry from the Valiant Horizon before its systems went dark. Project Aegis transmitted emergency quantum pings during neural intrusion attempts. Humanity now knew 2 things. The Dominion was real, and Kane was alive. In a secured chamber beneath Luna's orbital council complex, high-ranking officials convened. "He's resisting siphon attempts," one analyst reported. "Meaning they haven't killed him," another added. "Why?" asked Admiral Reyes. "Possibly studying the implant." A heavy silence settled. "If they replicate it," someone began. "They won't," Reyes interrupted. "It's biologically bonded to Kane's neural map. Unless they extract it." Silence again. Finally, Reyes spoke. "Prepare contingency strike protocols." "Against the Dominion?" a counselor whispered. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Reyes said quietly. "But if they breach Aegis, humanity becomes harvestable." The first crack. Back in the Dominion, Seralyth summoned Kane privately. No court. No guards within earshot. Only the 2 of them inside a high tower chamber overlooking the crimson sky. "You are not afraid of me," she observed. "I am," he replied honestly. "I just don't kneel because of it." She studied him. "Fear typically leads to submission." "Not in my species." She stepped closer. "You fascinate me, Elias Kane." He didn't respond. "That is dangerous for you," she added. "And for you." A faint smile touched her lips. "You believe fascination weakens me. I think curiosity blinds predators." Her eyes flashed briefly. "You assume I am predator alone. You feed on minds. And you feed on worlds." He hesitated. "Fair point." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then she said something unexpected. "I do not remember what it is to be challenged." He blinked. "That sounds lonely." The word lingered in the air. Her gaze darkened slightly. "Loneliness is inefficient. Doesn't make it unreal." For the first time, something in her expression softened. Not weakness, but depth. And Kane realized something critical. She wasn't purely tyrant. She was apex intelligence isolated by her own supremacy, which meant her greatest strength was also her vulnerability. The fatal shift. Later that cycle, Seralyth stood alone before her throne. The city pulsed below. The Dominion thrummed in synchronized harmony. Yet something felt different. For 8,000 years, she had never questioned dominance, never hesitated, never allowed anomaly to persist.
Now.
A human mind existed that she could not consume, a mind that pushed back, a mind that reflected her own vastness in distorted echo. Her eldest advisor approached cautiously. "My queen, the anomaly destabilizes perception among the court." She did not look at him. "Does it?" "Yes." "Good." The advisor froze. "My queen." She turned slowly. "For millennia, we have expanded without resistance. Stagnation breeds decay." The advisor's eyes widened slightly. "You see the human as catalyst. I see him as evolution." Dangerous words. Revolutionary words. The advisor bowed deeply, but unease radiated from him. And as he retreated, a new calculation formed in his ancient mind. If the queen valued the human above Dominion stability, then perhaps the Dominion required protection. Even from her. Above the crimson capital, one of the orbital lattices flickered, just briefly. A fluctuation so minor most systems ignored it. But far away, Terran sensors detected it. And within the Dominion, a faction began moving quietly in shadow. The queen believed she was studying the human. The court believed she was weakening. Humanity believed war was coming. None of them yet understood. The true fatal mistake was not that she failed to dominate him. It was that she allowed herself to be intrigued. And intrigue, in a predator who has never known equal, is the first fracture in supremacy.